There he is.
What's up, guys?
What's up, buddy? How's it going?
I'm in a new apartment, not an insane asylum, so hence the lack of decorations.
Me too. Look, I'm actually in an insane asylum.
I feel like I need to put one of those fake backgrounds. Uh,
Nah, dude, it's sicker this way. It's more, look at my background. I'm in my shitty ass bedroom in the apartment, so it's nothing
is that
special.
all of the Giants stuff behind you?
It's a few of their wins. God damn, I got some new pants on the bed. I should probably move that.
You're a mess.
It's
That's a
I think
huge violation of the podcast code.
it's
All
their
right.
last one. Someone that I'm friends with made it for me, and so I hung it up in the man cave room. But it's a cool little, memoriam.
Ode to SF Giants baseball. That's awesome.
Yeah, dude. Josh, you met my brother Dom before, right?
Way back, I want to say like probably like what 2008, 2007.
I,
Yeah,
I was
maybe.
still busting your ass in the gym, Mike.
Yeah, I still had that like older brother effect where it's just the mental game is not there. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
I think we
Well,
met in the fine town of Rohnert Park, right?
unfortunately, yeah, that's
Yeah.
a magnificent place. But I'll tell you, I kid you not, you've made more of an impact more because of your Christopher Walken impression that stuck with me. It's always myself and Ian trying to recreate the Christopher Walken impression, and I'm pretty sure I just sound just so far off that no one has any idea what I'm saying. But two mice.
I wonder if you guys met Dom the night that we went to that place and you were buying dollar shots for everybody. Because I think Ian was there that night too.
That would be.
I don't know.
I think that was Longitude or Latitude was the name of the place.
I don't know. Well, I didn't even have a ID, let alone I wasn't 21, so I wouldn't have. Are you
Yeah,
talking about in
you.
San Francisco though? Because that's a
No,
No,
different
no, no.
story.
There was a
no.
place in Rohnert Park one time called Latitude, and we were up there visiting, and it was the only place I ever went to that had dollar shots, right? So you have to do the. How often do you get to go? There's like 18 people in the bar, and you go, "Hey, round on me,
I
everyone."
mean, you say that, but like you go to the South and all these SEC schools where all you can do is drink and watch sports, and like we had a 25-cent shot night, and I'm pretty sure the state had to shut that down. But yeah, I mean, was it the Katati crawl, 3 bars in 3 minutes? You could do the whole gambit right there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Disgusting.
they
I
had
think a few
some.
of the places have closed down because of COVID. Rest in peace. But that's a whole nother subject. So for the listeners, Josh Miller, CEO of Owens Mixers, super excited to have you on the show, Josh. Thanks for coming on. Before we dive into Owens and all the amazing things that you've done with that brand, would love to learn a little bit about your upbringing in the Bay. I know you grew up in the
Yeah.
peninsula, right?
Yep. So very proud to say that I'm from the Bay Area. It's funny, like when you tell people, "Oh, where are you from?" You say, "Oh, I'm from." Well, I always would just say like Palo Alto. I'm originally from Portola Valley, literally next town over. But first thing they think of is because of everybody seeing the movie Facebook, or they think of Silicon Valley. They're like, "Oh, you grew up there." The reality is like the Bay Area that we all grew up with is a lot different than the Bay Area today. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's evolved. It's become this like destination of all sorts of culture, business. It's like the intersection of the world at this point, but it's also priced out a lot of the people that we knew growing up. If their parents weren't involved with, tech, or they didn't own a house in the Bay Area, you can't afford, the type of places and the prices that they're going for today. I myself, growing up in Portola Valley, similar to I'm sure how you guys felt in San Francisco, I was surrounded by wealth around me. There was tons of people who were unbelievably successful, got into the dot-com boom, internet era, and became venture capitalists or founders of companies, and just more money than they knew what to deal with. That was not my direct family experience. Both my parents were educators. My mom, dean of students of St. Francis High School. My dad was the principal at my elementary school at St. Joseph's and taught at actually University of San Francisco at nighttime. So he would do literally 6:30 a.m. all the way till 4 p.m., drive up to San Francisco 3 days a week, and then teach 2 night classes. So my upbringing was very, very different, but also I think a lot of what has shaped me today is more being around that, right? It gives you that aspiration and motivation to want to be exactly the other families that you saw. I always thought it was funny. You'd see the kids who would always be last to be picked up from daycare. My mom would be coming from work, and my dad would like take us home. I was always that last kid. So I was like, sports was an escape. You're always that last kid to get picked up, so you always have more time. But I think that like in itself is a reflection of the Bay Area, right? Like I knew that from that point on, like I want that type of lifestyle. But I also was the kid that grew up and thought Olive Garden was a local restaurant up until I took a baseball tournament in high school, and I'm on we're in this like Sprinter van, my baseball team, and I look over and I see a Olive Garden, and I literally turn to my buddy and I go, dude, the Olive Garden, in Mountain View, they got a second location. Good for them. I literally said good for them. And that's how sheltered I was in my little world, right? To then find out that it's owned by Darden, one of the largest restaurant groups ever.
It's another good indicator of getting picked up late was the mission project. I don't know, you guys, if you ever did this in school, you have to recreate a mission. And there's some kids that came in literally like they had sprinkler systems in their mission. And we would come in with a cardboard box that we made all night. And you're just like, they're like, well, you're not winning this competition, and you're like, how? They literally have like a contractor making their mission. And it was like, that was another good indicator. The late after school is really
the science fair.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, dude,
the science
I got
fair
murdered.
was always, oh my gosh. I quickly realized that math wasn't my strong suit in science. But then again, looking back at the other kids' science projects, I remember thinking, well, somebody had professional help and someone didn't. I didn't have the professional help. But
it was clear in third grade.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Hey, so you went to St. Francis High School, which is WCAL?
No, I actually went to Mountain View High School. So I did private school up until eighth grade. And then freshman year, I decided that I'll never forget. I visited, it's similar to like my experience of why I ended up at South Carolina. I walked into Mountain View High School, and I remember you always shadow somebody, right? Yeah. And Mountain View was truly like the melting pot of the Bay Area. Like you have all different cultures, even just like economic classes. Like what I loved about it was just such a real like experience for a high school. And I shadowed this one kid, and I just remember like being absolutely mind blown that you could not go to a class and the teacher could write you that you're not there, but there was no one there to like shuffle you back into the door of the class. I remember like I'd be the kid that was moving around in the class where I'd be like, I got to go to the bathroom, like fourth bathroom break. I'd be like, yeah, weak bladder. Truth be told, I just get lost, in the hallways, right. And then someone shuffles you back in. At Mountain View, whether you show up or not, it doesn't matter to them, right? But you can end up getting detentions. I would always think about ways to get out of that. But the reality is that Mountain View represented to me like more independence at a younger age than what I had experienced living up to that. Mm-hmm. And so when I went to Mountain View, I remember it's like you start from scratch. Like I knew a lot of kids from baseball and basketball doing summer league, stuff like that. But I had no idea like how cool it was to just be exposed to so much diversity. And like I played football my freshman year. I've been the same height since eighth grade. So
still dunking though.
It doesn't really help when you go to a football team and you play flag football leading up to that. And then you get in a hitting drill, and pretty sure I had CTE after the first day. But the great part is that like, I felt like this was like one of those experiences where I could see myself making lifelong friends, but more importantly, experiencing something so much faster in life than I normally would have.
Yeah. Do you still have any like lifelong friends that you're involved with in business stuff, like looking back, or just friend stuff?
Yeah, it's I'm very blessed to have been surrounded early on. I mean, my two best friends since childhood, Billy and Leon. I've known them since literally preschool. I'm looking at just in the two endeavors that I've been a part of being a part of Sir Kensington and starting Owens. Majority of my friends are investors. My brother-in-law and I started Owens together. We've done things the exact opposite way they tell you to do it. They say, don't start a business with family. We're brother-in-laws. We're best friends. Don't take money from family. Don't take money from friends. And I agree with a lot of that stuff, but I think it's a mutual respect for the business that we're building, B, the fact that they trust me to do the right thing with their money, and C, they see the vision of where we're headed. But I think that when you look at the type of people that I grew up with and their parents and who they are today, a lot of these people came from money where there wasn't a reality of failure. And I always felt like I had that ingrained in me, that is a real reality, is that if you don't succeed, you will have no money. And there's no like, oh, mom, dad, help me out here. It's the reality is like you're toast after that. So you start from zero. So I think that that's an interesting perspective to have, is the underdog-esque mentality.
At Sonoma State, I always remember you being very kind of entrepreneurial. I know that you and our mutual friend, Ian Banez, took a trip out east. Can you tell us a little bit about how that shaped you? And I think the company was Honest Ade, right?
Honest Tea, yeah. Well,
Honest
it's funny,
Tea.
Exactly what you said about Sonoma State. I'd like to go back even further. I sold massage chairs at Brookstone my sophomore year of high school, and I had to have my dad lie about my age so that I could get a job at the mall. I'll never forget, I wanted a PS2, and my dad was like, well, Christmas is whatever months away. And I've been like, let me get an advance on my, the lawn work and stuff like that. And he's like, you're absolutely crazy. And what's nuts is, like, I just went and bought a 32-inch TV, just small monitor to
play Call of Duty.
Well, Call of Duty will be used for one of them, but a monitor system for my computer. And hilarious part is, I'm in Target and I just swipe my credit card, right? I didn't think anything of it.
Right.
The wild thing is, like, I'm thinking back to the argument that I got in with my father about wanting a PS2. And my father was like, no, like, you got to pay for it. I'm not doing it. It's not like out of cycle presents here. So I said to him, I'll go work at the mall. And he was like, where are you going to work? And I said, I'll go sell massage chairs, as a joke, because those are always the highest ticketed items in Brookstone. And so he's like, all right.
And lease bought items too, heavily used, never bought, but I've sat in plenty while waiting for my mom to go shop, for sure.
I mean, there's a reason why they make them like, what is it, $2 to sit in the malls, and just like the ones that are out there full of germs and crap like that. I don't know who's sitting those during COVID, but when I got that job, I remember thinking to myself, man, my hit rate is low, right? Like, your conversion rate on number of people talked to and shares sold is so low. Like, you're talking maybe 0.005%, right? But no one focused in that store like I did on those massage chairs. And I always knew that the next big ticket item was those Tempur-Pedic mattresses that they had, right? And I'm like, well, you're a person of comfort. If you don't need the chair, what are you sleeping on? And I remember the first pitch I ever heard online was, what do you spend half your life doing? And it's sleeping. And right. I remember, or sitting down. And I remember being like, oh my God, I'm using that, right? Yeah. And so I was the highest massage chair salesman out of Brookstone in the company at the time. And I met the woman, coincidentally, years later, who was like the original OG number one. And I think her name was like Barbara, but she was out of Portland, Maine, where my dad's family is from. I remember meeting her, and then I was like, yeah, I was the kid that outsold you. And her face, it was classic, right?
She couldn't believe it.
Yeah. And so that's where I knew that, like, if you can sell, you can literally do whatever you want in your career. Doesn't matter if, somebody had to sell the shower curtain rings at one point. There is just anything you can sell, and people sell all the time within organizations. If a person says, I don't do any selling, I'm an accountant, that's not true. Like, if you work for a big accounting agency, you have to sell somebody else on why you should have a better process or software to do your job, or why you deserve a raise, or whatever it may be. So when I was, before I transferred to South Carolina, I was at Sonoma State, and right around my freshman year, going into that summer, I was like, God, I want to make more money here. And I started, do you remember Mike at the Crossroads?
Yeah.
The burger place.
Dom remembers that too.
Mm-hmm. The delicious burger spot that probably added 20 pounds to my freshman year. It was Mike at the Crossroads. And then what was that deli right down the street?
Dude, the deli was good.
Lombardi's.
Man. Was it Lombardi's? Yeah. And then they became the barbecue place. Yeah, the barbecue. That's right. Yeah. There was one before that, but then, yeah.
And it's funny. Roanoke Park had some really OG comfort food.
Yeah.
And then there was Fuzhou, the Chinese restaurant. So I went to each one of them and I said, you don't even have a Facebook page. No one knows about this other than people who've been living here for a couple of years. There's, 15, 20,000 students and you're just missing out. And why does Chunky's Burritos always sell out all their burritos? It's real estate. It's right across the street from Sonoma State. So I said, let me do your marketing for you. You don't even have to pay me unless you see anybody redeeming these coupons. And I don't know if you remember, Mike, I Photoshop made coupons. There wasn't even barcodes. And it was for half off your sandwich. And I just found like 30 people that I knew to go there and buy a sandwich. And it was for half off. And so what I started doing is I started scouring on Craigslist marketing jobs. Always the jobs that no one wanted. It was always like, oh, we'll pay commission, blah, blah, blah. And only an idiot 18-year-old like myself would be like, screw it. I have nothing else to do. I'm supposed to be going to class, but other than playing intramural sports, there's not much to do in Roner Park.
Right.
I stumbled upon a listing for Honest Ade in Bethesda, Maryland. And it was they called it a road warrior. And this was the first ever internship that they were going to offer. And for those who don't know what Honest Tea is an organic tea and juice company that eventually sold to Coca-Cola for $200 million. Now the company does over $500 million in sales. And they were the first to put real tea leaves in the bottle. And I'll never forget when you show somebody the bottle, they'd be like, oh, I think that one's gone bad. I'm like, no, that's real tea leaves. You're just used to seeing Nestle hard iced tea that's super sugary.
Just garbage, yeah.
So it was a way to like rethink a category that had been around for so long. So I reached out, I applied for it, and they're like, oh, great, but the job is on the East Coast, and you're going to be in charge of New England doing events. And all you're going to be doing is sampling at these events, meaning pouring drinks and telling people about the product. And I said, you could have told me like that I got to watch paint drying. If I was getting paid, I was getting paid. I didn't care. Well, I had just lost my father the year prior, and I remember being like, you know what, I need to go out and do an experience where I'm going to be on the East Coast on my own. Told my mom, told my sister, I'm going to live in Maine, based out of there, need to use a car, and I'm going to be driving all around New England. They paid you like $250 a month and then would take care of your gas and food, but that seemed like a great deal to me for an experience.
Oh, yeah. Very good deal.
The first week, it was the Burlington Marathon or half marathon or something like that. And in Burlington, Vermont, they have this downtown strip. And I remember seeing all the bars. I didn't have a fake ID. And I was meeting my boss at the time, and he was like loading up my car. And we were going to be giving out drinks the next day at the Burlington Marathon. And part of my job description said that I had to get photos of really like energetic young people who were drinking it, like would look great for the Facebook page, stuff like that. And so I noticed there was a prom going on down the street, and I saw all these tuxedos, and I'm like, light bulb went off. I should go get them on his tea, and I should get pictures of them drinking it, make it look like a party, right? Like almost
throw
like
some
if
vodka
we were
in there. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they were under 18, so no vodka was involved at all. But
right.
I wanted it to look like a house party, right? Like something crazy. I got probably like roughly 100 photos that night, and these kids were like pouring it on themselves. It looked like what's the movie where the kid throws the house party? Project X.
Project X.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, where the car goes in the pool.
They're all just dancing and they're going nuts, right? And so the next morning, my boss Ethan wakes up and meets me down at breakfast, and I said, "Hey, I got something I wanted to share with you." And he's like, "What's up?" And I showed him all the photos. And this is the old digital cameras, mind you. And he's like, "When was this?" And I was like, "Last night. There was this like crazy prom party." And he's like, "How'd you get into the prom party?" I was like, "I don't know. I just offered them free tea and juice." And he sent those to the marketing team, and they said, whatever this guy wants to do the rest of the summer, let him do events, whatever it may be, put him in a bigger role to allow him to go and crawl across New England and get this type of content.
Right.
Well, my old job popped up, and I needed to fill that. So I called Ian, who we all know and love. I said, "Ian, you want to move to Maine?" And I bet you could give Ian a map of the United States, and he couldn't point out Maine on like 10
Never
sides.
left San Francisco in his whole life.
Never left San Francisco. Was probably shaking like a leaf on the plane on the ride over. And so you put two 18-year-olds in this role, and he was my right-hand guy.
He's your underboss now.
Well, we were moving like that.
Yeah.
And the amount of product that we had in the car, and it was.
I remember seeing pictures, dude. Like.
Yeah, we had a wrapped Honest Tea car that had so many blind spots because the wrap was so poorly done
Right.
that you'd be like driving and nearly get hit 50 times. And then I had a 1989 Buick LeSabre with purple plush velvet like seats in the back, and it looked like a pimp mobile. And that was my sidecar. So I really did feel like we were doing our own syndicate in Maine. But it was the best summer of my life because I got to see, so I started selling to Kmart, 7-Elevens, restaurants, delis, you name it. And we would do these things called sale blitzes, where you would go with a Coca-Cola distributor because they had a call option on Honest Ade at the time where Coca-Cola was distributing for them, but it was kind of like date before you get married type setup.
Mm-hmm.
And so for those 2 years, you'd be with Coca-Cola people. And we would be in like Albany, New York. And during these blitzes, they would pair you up with like 10 other people from Honest Ade or like Coca-Cola distributors. And you would just be in meetings from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. And so I used to get competitive. I'd be like, all right, dinner's on whoever sells the least. And this one guy, Mike, had the most strong Long Island accent I've ever heard. And he'd be like, we're getting pizza again, boys. I don't care what you say. And we'd be like, this is the 5th day you've lost in a row. No one wants pizza anymore.
It sounds like this was kind of like the recipe for, I mean, this would really help you start Owens, some of these relationships you made.
And it's all because you got distracted, right? I mean, your task was go to the marathon, get the marathon picks, but you're like, I got something calling me for something else going on here. I'm just gonna go do it, and
curiosity, right? Like curiosity is what motivates people. It's like, okay, well, what if I had this? Would I be happier with that? I think something that I'll never forget, somebody said to me one time, they're like, you don't like to color inside the lines. And I remember thinking to myself, hell no. Like, I was never good at coloring inside the lines. But the reality is that's how some of the best ideas are born. I'd also say like that foolish confidence is what motivates you to be like, I can do anything. And since, everybody fails in life, but just because you get your hand burnt a little bit on the stove, at least you're going to really hurt yourself there. But more importantly, what's right and wrong, but also the curiosity is what motivates you to do more. And for me, just even from the Bay Area, look at everybody that has been around us that has been successful. It's curiosity, motivation, and ultimately like leads to great ideas.
Even though I only met you briefly, you seem like the kind of guy that if you would have showed your boss that content and he would have been like, hey, dude, I'm not sending this in. This is garbage. This isn't what we're looking for. Then even if corporate said, we're not interested, this is trash, that wouldn't have deterred you. You just would have been like, well, that was a great idea. They don't know any better. I'll get them on the next idea. Versus folks who just say like, I shouldn't step outside of the lines anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally that. And it reminds me of just cold calling. It's like, okay, because the gatekeeper says that person isn't available right now. Does that mean you don't call them back again or try to get that sale? Like if everybody took no for an answer, everybody would just be complacent. But yeah, I would say that that's very accurate in that sense.
You mentioned, losing your old man, Dom lost his old man at a younger age as well. I mean, do you feel like that was a huge motivating factor for you to like go out there and really kind of make him proud and do the extra things that you needed to do?
I don't think it's a matter of like business wise. I think it shapes you as a human being of like, you've gone through a tragedy at an early age and you have to respond to that tragedy. And what's sad is I think a lot of people go one way or the other. I don't think there's a lot of like gray middle area, meaning I think people handle like, and there's no handling it well. The best advice that I got from another friend about a loss was he lost his brother, and he said, when anybody asks you, how do you feel about it? Or how are you doing? Is always the age old question. Like, are you doing okay? Instead of the recorded answer of, yeah, it's tough, blah, blah, blah. He said, tell the person exactly how you feel right then in the moment. If you woke up that day and you didn't feel like getting out of bed and you didn't even want to shower or brush your teeth, tell the person that. It's going to make them uncomfortable, but ultimately getting that out of yourself is what's going to make you get over this feeling and cope with it. There are good days, there are bad days. But I would say that it didn't shape me in business. It just motivated me to want to be a better person And more importantly, it placed an importance on my family, how important my sister, my brother-in-law and their kids are, my mom. And it wasn't like, oh, that's when I knew I wanted to start my own business. Absolutely not. It just made me kind of have that wake up call, like, hey, that get out of jail free card isn't really there anymore with that being gone. So I think it was just like, it was an unfortunate tragedy, but it also, like, I don't want to say things happen for a reason, but it does help you become a better person.
It gives you some insane perspective, right? Like, I'm sure, hurdles. Someone comes up, they're like, oh, this is the end of the world. I couldn't pay my rent and my landlord, and you become actually a source for those people to say, hey, look, rent, house, we'll get through that, dude. Like, hey, we got our family, everyone's healthy. These are great things. It definitely gives perspective to not sweat little things, for sure.
Totally. And I think that, look at just what people went through in the past year, where our entire world was shifted and thrown upside down. And more importantly, like, a lot of people had that, exactly what you just said. They lost their jobs. The hardest part for me is in the industry that I work in, seeing all the bartenders or people that work at the stadiums and arenas. You don't realize those people, when someone gets furloughed, it's not like nice way of saying, like, you don't get a paycheck anymore. Being furloughed means you have no money. Your job security is gone. You're not guaranteed to get your job back if the world comes back, because this also was an opportunity for a lot of big businesses to make some cuts. And more importantly, you now suddenly are in a position where maybe you have to switch industries. Maybe you have to learn a new trade. Maybe you have to absolutely pivot into something new. People go through these struggles all the time, right? And that famous saying of walk a mile in someone else's shoes. The reality is we all face our own battles. And I'm fortunate to, have the support network that I have. But more importantly, it motivates you and it pushes you to get through it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know we'll get to, your transition to some of the bigger companies you've started, but while you're on that about furlough, how was it for you guys dealing with COVID-19 and having staff and navigating all that stuff?
So our company, which, like you said, we'll get into, but to give you like our perspective of going into it, and it's funny because it's March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, right? Last year, I was supposed to be holding a huge 600-person event for St. Patrick's Day. And we made the call on the Friday before to not do it, because I think St. Patrick's Day was on a Saturday last year. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
World shuts down essentially. And in my world, I would say the 19th, I was like, oh my gosh, like, it's done. I was also at the Heat game when they announced right after the game, they go, this was the last game of the NBA regular season.
You snuck in on that? I had floor seats to a Clippers game, and that one got canceled. I've never sat floor seats ever, and a friend calls me and says,
this is going to make you sick to your stomach, Dom.
Dude.
I was sitting floor because my buddy that runs American Airlines Arena was like, dude, go for it. Go sit. And they were playing against the Hornets, I think. And that was my first time sitting floor.
Ugh.
And my buddy and I still talk about it. And I go, we watched the last NBA regular season game with fans. And we were courtside.
Dude.
And we weren't supposed to be there. And I want to be clear. We didn't pay for courtside tickets. Trust me, that's not in my pipeline ever. I don't believe I want to pay that ticket price. But it was quite the experience, right? Like, you're sitting there and, I'm not the tallest guy. So when you're looking at these people, it's like larger than life. But
it's like standing next to me.
When our game got shut down, I knew it. I was like, I don't belong on courtside anyway. So it's only fitting. Destiny shut that game down because they're like, but that's awesome, dude.
Let's also
last game.
The thought in your head went through, if I get the ball, am I shooting it? Right?
Oh,
if
all kinds of
ball,
stuff. Yeah.
You have to pull the trigger. It's worth getting kicked out.
It's like Ari Gold when he's like, I'll get out there and launch a 3 if I need to.
Yeah. So you're at the last game. That's awesome, dude.
So I'm at the last game. And so for our company, my brother-in-law, who's my business partner, I flew out to Redwood City that Tuesday. And I was just going to go up to Tahoe and work from there. And New York City wasn't a place that you wanted to be in the beginning of COVID. So I get on a plane and I go out there and I'm sitting in his office in Redwood City, and his exact words were, think of this as like a 2-week pause. And I was like, yeah, 2 weeks seems extreme, but 2 weeks, you're right. Like, it will be a nice break. I was traveling 90% of the time. So every Monday I'd be on a plane, hit 2 cities or states, back on a Thursday night or a Friday, spend the weekend in New York, rinse and repeat. So he's like, 2 weeks. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's actually refreshing. I'm going to take a break and take a deep breath with work and really start to think about things. A couple of days later, market starts crashing. All these people are talking about,
end of the
numbers
world,
of COVID cases, end of
the
the world.
National Guard.
Meanwhile, we're in California, right, where everybody takes it to an extreme to where you're like, do I walk outside without a hazmat suit?
Yeah.
And I just got off a plane, so I didn't want to go near my mom. We had a socially distanced dinner, but we had to make a really tough decision about what do we do with our employees. And ultimately, we felt like we wanted to be able to say, coming out of this, we didn't have to furlough anybody. Nobody had to take a salary cut. And more importantly, we added 3 people during this past year. And my brother-in-law made the decision. He's CEO, I'm president. He made the decision to not pay himself a salary. And I said to myself, like, God, this guy is like the most humble human being ever. He's my best friend, but more importantly, he's like a really good person at its core. He's like, I'm going to be okay. My sister and him will be fine. I'm not going to take a salary right now because I want to make sure everybody can not only keep their full salary, but their families aren't affected by it. And I was like shocked in that moment, and it hit me, but it didn't really hit me till we did our like end of the year where we did a Zoom with all of our team, and we were having like a happy hour. And I gave him a little toast, and I said, you're not only an incredible person, but what you proved to this company is that we can get through anything. And everybody looks in the industry we are, and for people that don't know, Owen's Craft Mixers is a cocktail mixer brand. So during COVID, that has definitely shot up.
Folks were having a few. Exactly. I'd be curious to see the data of when did people drink more in Prohibition or during the COVID? You know what I mean? Like, I'd be really curious to see those numbers per capita.
The easiest stat that I can give you about just my side of the category is the cocktail mix category is over $4 billion in the United States. And that's not like people that are mixing with vodka, with orange juice or cranberry juice. We're talking like margarita mixes, Bloody Mary mixes. So like a subcategory of a larger category of beverage. That was growing 6% year over year in sales off $4 billion. COVID hits, it jumps up 40% according to IRI data. Owens went up 211% in national retail. That's incredible, right? But going into 2020, 47% of our business was on-premise bars, restaurants, and stadiums. 53% was retail. And we weren't even online at all. So you have to pivot that and be like, holy crap, you got to pivot. You got to pivot 3 months prior. You're just like, holy cow, we're in a bad spot. So that was with furloughing people and making tough decisions. I will always look back and say that was a turning point in our company. And more importantly, we just did an absolute shift unlike any other. And that being nimble like that is rare, even for small companies, and having the manpower to do it.
Was Sir Kensington's, which Mike, you didn't tell me, and maybe you did, but like, dude, I'm a fan of Sir Kensington's, both in the sauce itself and when I'm actually
the original ketchup king.
Dude, yeah, when I'm in the actual store, I like throwing out a Sir Kensington's, and then grabbing it. Like it's an experience too. Was that a similar trajectory as far as the pivot from restaurants, et cetera, to people getting more stuff at home, or did that have a different kind of a path during COVID?
It's funny about Sir Kensington's is that it's a brand that was going against the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which was Heinz. Everybody grew up with Heinz. You always knew ketchup was Heinz. And you would, for the most part, know yellow mustard was French's, or you would just like know the bottle shape. But I would go as far to say is, other than Coca-Cola, Heinz is probably the most ubiquitous CPG brand out there. Like, you can't find a fridge other than the ones that now are buying Sir Kensington's, but prior to Sir Kensington's, you couldn't find a fridge that didn't have Heinz in it. And the hilarious part is, for people that don't even eat a lot of burgers or fries, you still have Heinz ketchup in your fridge. It's just like
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting an apartment. I got to get the Heinz. I got to put it in there.
You buy the
I'm more
3-pack at Costco, and it sits there
Oh,
for
wait.
years.
And the stuff that goes into that can sit there for years because your body never processes it. My buddy Scott from elementary school, we went to St. Joseph's, was 3 years older than me, came up with the idea to start Sir Kensington's when he was at Brown. I'll never forget. I just got done with Honest Ade. I just took a job with Tesla to be their first intern. And Scott goes, well, why don't you just sell ketchup while you're doing the whole Tesla gig? And I was like,
oh, that's where you were at, Tesla.
I can't just sell ketchup for you. I take the internship with Tesla. It was the best summer of my life. Similar to Honest Ade, they pretty much let me go sell Model S's before they were out. And I was getting people to write $40,000 deposit checks. And I'd be like, handing them to my boss being like, here, this is at this event. They want to put it down. And they'd be like, what? So they just send me all across the country, new store openings, you name it. And meeting Elon Musk, I will say, was like, even back then, it was like one of the most out-of-body experiences I've ever had, because the dude, even his presence, he's a very approachable human being for somebody that you would think would be so awkward,
introverted,
or intimidating,
right?
Yeah. So you like have that built up, and I always saw his desk in the far corner. It was open seating at Tesla. But Scott sends me a quarter pallet of jars of ketchup to Columbia, South Carolina, unmarked. So like, you want to talk about more of like the cartel trade?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, what is all this? And
now your friends are really like, dude, this guy's a peddler, dude. He's peddling
exactly
ketchup
like, what's
now.
in the bottle?
Yeah.
What's in the bottle? And so he said, yeah, you should just try selling them. And I was like, selling them where? And he's like, I'll send you some labels. This was back when, like, of course, I mean, I didn't have a printer. I mean, I don't think I even have a printer now that I think about it. But like, you had to go to a FedEx, print them out, cut them. I had glue. I put them onto the actual jars of ketchup, packed up a bag, went down Hardin Street, went down Green Street, door to door ketchup salesman. This is like the 8-pound Oric, or the guy that would try to sell you knives, or the Tupperware salesman, door to door, not to actual residences, but I'm talking like restaurants and retail stores. After like the first day, I had a list of like 10 people that kept saying, well, if it's in our distributor, I'll buy it. I had no clue what they were talking about, because I knew the Coca-Cola distributor, but I figured there's a food distributor. They kept saying Cisco. Me growing up in the Bay Area, I thought they meant Cisco networking services. And I'm like, what are they talking about? And
I thought they meant Cisco from Drew Hill or what's that? The dude with the hair that did the thong song.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, he would have been a great spokesperson for Sauce. But it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm just going to now call Cisco. And come to find out, Cisco is the largest broadline distributor in the world for food.
Massive.
Get a number for the Columbia office and their merchandiser. And mind you, I'm 20 at the time. Merchandiser says, what are you trying to do? I go, I have 10 customers that want to buy ketchup off me. He goes, do you work for Heinz? I go, no, I have a new brand or whatever. I go there and he's like, I'll take a meeting, bring everything you have, materials wise, you name it. I didn't know what he meant. So I show up with Wendy's, French fries, and ketchup. And I walk in and I'll never forget.
Said, bring materials. You brought the grub. Like, we're going to sample this.
That's so sick.
I was ready to dip. And I remember walking in and I was really excited. I wasn't nervous, but I was distraught because the fries had gotten cold. And I was like, this is going to throw off the entire tasting. Yeah. And this is really going to matter.
Yeah.
This guy's sitting in his big desk, and I put the French fry bag, and I'm noticing the oil coming out of the bag, and I put the ketchup, and he's like, how old are you? And I go, old enough. And I'll never forget. I go, old enough to sell ketchup. And he goes, I like that. Saucy. And so we start tasting it, and he's like, all right, what's your FOB? And I was like, what's your FOB? And he goes, that's a question. What's your freight on board charge? How many layers to a pallet? All this stuff. I freeze. I don't know any of these answers. I'm usually really quick with getting out of this. I go, can I call Scott right now? It was like phone a friend on $1 Million. What was the show with Regis Philbin?
Who wants to be a millionaire?
Yeah.
Throw him on the speakerphone. Scott, how many layers to a pallet? Scott in the background. Hey, Mark, layers to a pallet going down to Columbia. They're like trying to figure it out. there's like 4 people on this call. And he goes, all right, if you have all these customers buying, we'll send you your first purchase order. That was the first food distributor purchase order at the time. And these guys couldn't be more pumped up that I got this done, but I had no clue what I was doing. And the hilarious part is then I had to go back to all those customers, give them the pricing. Some dropped off, some stayed on. But it was such a hilarious experience of, similar to what you had said before, is you just don't know what failure really is. So you have no fear of it at that age.
And not like so many of the, you think of big companies and you're like, hey, first thing I would have thought in that situation, I can't get a hold of Cisco, so it's not worth my time. I can't get a hold of them. You're like, hey, I'm going to call them and head down there with French fries.
And that's why I think that if you look at any industry, the reason why there's disruption other than, let's say, true technology that's actually changing something, but without a sales force, nothing ever will take out, the leader of the pack. Like if you can't sell, you could be a brilliant genius, smartest person in any room, and you could have an idea and you could build an app or whatever. But truth be told, if you can't sell or have somebody that can sell for you, it's not going anywhere.
Well, it's like what the podcast people are always asking. Oh, how do you get these guests? You just message people and ask them. I mean,
Wolf of Wall Street, pick up the phone and dial, right? Like it is so true. People don't realize Microsoft, Bill Gates, genius. Who is the sales guy? Steve Ballmer. What does Steve Ballmer own? The Clippers. He's done pretty well. Remember them during the 96 Windows or whatever, and they're all on stage and they're dancing.
Yeah,
you got to look it up. Make fun of it all the time. But that was that feeling of success because they had the perfect team. That's like the Warriors winning it with Steph, Clay, Draymond. Like it was the power team, and then Durant comes. It's like that's what they assembled up there. So I think that ultimately what has really helped me in my career is just being like, I'm going to just try. Like I'm at least going to make the attempt to get it done. And I'm not going to stop until it's like a cease and desist letter shows up. Which, knock on wood, nothing yet. But
so Kensington sells for a lot of money, and you make a few bucks, I'm sure. And what prompts you to start Owens?
So Sir Kensington was getting acquired by Unilever in 2016. In 2015, I wanted to start a business with my brother-in-law. I knew that. Tyler played football at UCLA. He went to Columbia Business School. He was in consulting. He was working at 100 hours a week. Hardest part with Tyler was the only nights that I'd really get to meet up with him would be like a Friday night because he'd be back in the office on a Saturday and then he'd be exhausted on Sundays with like a rest day. I'd go over, my sister would cook every Sunday. We'd be hanging on the couch watching football, whatever it may be. But Friday nights we'd go to Bleecker Street Sports Bar. I remembered that like towards the tail end of Sir Kensington's, the best way to sell the chefs was getting them out of the kitchen and bring them out to a bar. Problem that I didn't realize is that chefs can drink more than anybody else on this planet. It's not the most glorious profession because you got to remember a chef only hears negative feedback in the back of the kitchen. The person who's giving them good feedback, it goes to the server, and rarely does the server actually walk back and be like, hey chef, that was the best chicken saltimbocca this person's ever had. They want to meet you. Rare, right? So they're just angry people a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But they're good people and they're fun to drink with to a certain extent. Another time I could probably tell you a ridiculous story about how one of the most successful chefs in New York ended up in a janitor closet at the Fin Bin, which is just a dive bar on the Upper East Side, but I digress. All of these experiences.
He's safe for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's alive. I want to point that out there. Different profession, but
yeah.
All of these experiences were taking people out for cocktails. And I always found it weird that everywhere I went, the drink tasted different. Yet a Coors Light tastes like a Coors Light in Mississippi as it does in the Colorado Rockies. Or I get a shot of Jameson in Miami Beach. That shot of Jameson tastes the exact same in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And the reason being is that it's a perfected liquid. It's a known taste profile, and it's what people expect. And Tyler and I would go to Bleecker Street Sports Bar, which had been there for 30-something years when COVID had different plans with the landlord and upping their prices. And we would sit there and we'd play darts, and we'd always start with a shot of Jameson and drink a Coors Light. And I was talking to him about like, it's crazy, man. Like Moscow mules are so popular now. We see the copper mugs. And then we noticed even at this bar, they were doing these little feature cards about the drink of the month or whatever. And some liquor company would push on them. And every time my friend Renee was the bartender, she'd be like, you do not want this one. It's disgusting. I'm like, well, why are you selling it? Oh, the liquor company dropped off POS for it. We have an incentive behind it, yada, yada, yada. I'd always order it, even after that, like just absolute glowing review. The drink would take 20 minutes to make. It would taste terrible. And the bartender hated making it.
Yeah.
Not consistent at all. And so the variable or the common denominator was the fact that the bartender didn't either have the time to make the drink right, wasn't educated properly, or more importantly, the type of ingredients that go into it weren't high quality. The rise of premium spirits, you've seen in all categories, especially tequila, it's going through the roof right now. And so I said to Tyler, I go, dude, we should look into like making either a ready to drink cocktail, like a liquor based drink, or we should create a cocktail mixer. And the reason why we didn't want to go the ready to drink is because we wanted to partner with liquor companies. We wanted to create cocktail solutions. We didn't want to become a competitor to Tito's, to Jameson, to Jim Beam. We wanted to be liquor's best friend, and that's our industry tagline. So Tyler, the next week, it's a Wednesday. He says, you want to meet it for a coffee? I said, yeah, I'll meet you down at McNally Books in Soho, right down from my office at Sir Kensington. He goes, I quit. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I quit my job. Let's just make these mixers. And I was like, what?
Damn.
He goes, yeah, I just quit. I don't know. I know what to tell you. Something telling me that this is going to be what we're going to do. So every day after work, I go over and Tyler would be working in his tiny little kitchen in Greenwich Village.
Rain Man status.
Making recipes by himself. I'd show up, he'd be buzzed as hell. And this Tyler like drinks, but like wasn't like, a frequent drinker during the week. He's definitely like weekends only. And so we'd be having these different mixers, but making cocktails with them. So my sister's 30th birthday party where we large batched our ginger beer that we first came out with. And we probably had like 2 gallons worth of ginger beer. It was gone within 10 minutes off like 10 people drinking it. And what we realized is when people get a cocktail that they like, they stick with it.
Yep.
If they get a cocktail that they don't like, they revert back to a vodka soda or a beer. But if they like that cocktail, you stay with it. There's always this like stigma in your head. If I bounce around spirits or cocktails, I'm going to have a massive hangover the next day. The reality is you just didn't drink a lot of water and like you drank too much.
Yeah.
So that's like where the idea came from. And I was like, you know what, this is our destiny. Like we got to go after it and start this.
So fast forward, how'd you guys partner with Barstool? I know that was a huge, that skipped some steps in the process, but
millions in sales.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to ask.
how do you get to that point?
Where does that even start? How does that even begin?
It starts with literally the first sale ended up affecting the Barstool deal, which is crazy to say. One Oak. Have you guys ever heard of One Oak?
Yep.
In a couple Jay-Z songs, ended up at One Oak.
Yeah.
Richie Keeve owns it. It's like, it's the nightlife place in New York City, or was. That and the Derby. And then the Derby ended up becoming Up and Down. They rebranded it. When Tyler and I made these drinks, with the mixer, I said, if I can get us into One Oak, we can get this in anywhere. It was like, you make it in New York, you make it anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I go, Tyler, we had a soda stream. He cooked the ginger down. It was like some Breaking Bad shit, man.
Yeah.
And we kind of look like Jesse Pinkman and Walter White. He's bald. I got all my hair. I'm short. He's tall. He's the smart one. I'm the hustler. Like, it couldn't be more like, we have this great painting that I got to share with you guys, but it's us in the whole like Breaking Bad setup. He makes it in the kitchen. We stop by a FedEx Kinko's again, and I'm like having flashbacks of the Sir Kensington days.
Can't get out of FedEx.
Slap that label. Yeah, I think you guys need to get it sponsored by FedEx next. But
yeah,
slap that label on with glue. Walken, Frank McHugh. Pretty sure he's in the mob. I love Frank. If he ever hears this, I know he must be some type of OG gangster.
Yeah.
Frank chain smokes Marlboro Reds, an entire pack, and I messaged him on LinkedIn. I couldn't believe this guy, even after meeting him, had a LinkedIn. And I said, can I show you my cocktail mixers? It's perfect for nightclub tables. you're serving vodka sodas and cranberry juice. Like, we can make it better. 10 minutes Monday. That's all he said. So I showed up on Monday, and then I had to clarify, and I'm like, 1 p.m. He goes, what's with all the questions? Yeah, that works. Show up. I'm scared to death. You ever go to a nightclub during the day? Not a
no, scary.
Yeah,
setup.
I feel like you feel
scary.
like Visqueen on the floor. You're gone, dude.
Yeah, and I'll also say that, like, you see it at nighttime, and you're like, this is the Mecca, and then you realize alcohol is a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, and he's chain smoking Marlboro Reds, and we thought it was a 10-minute meeting. So I start pitching. I'm just like out the gates, like hot, and I go, Tyler, just watch. We ended up staying there for 2 hours. Turns out Frank went to Columbia undergrad. Turns out that Frank knew all about Sir Kensington, knew all about meat purveyors. My friend Pat LaFrida, who owns the best meat purveyor out of New York City, like, knew all these people. We had all these connections. And he says, all right, I'll take 10 cases. And I said, what? He goes, yeah, I'll take 10 cases. 10 cases is at the time, $108 a case. Okay. That's $1,000. We're making this in the kitchen. And so Tyler, like, I'll never get it. He steps on my foot, and we're at a table, so you can't really tell. I'm like, I look at him, and he goes, say something. I go, that's awesome, Frank, but unfortunately we have too much demand, so we're going to need 4 months actually to ramp up. We'll put you in line with the rest of the customers, and we'll launch with you in October. And he goes, okay, that's fine. And
you're thinking if you promise Frank 10 cases and don't deliver, they find you.
You're swimming with the fishes.
You're swimming with the fishes for sure. Yeah.
And as we're walking out, this was like out of a mob movie. And he says, gentlemen, it's from not Goodfellas. It's from, I'll say it, and Dom, I know you'll get it. He says, one day I'm going to come to you with a favor, and it's something you can't say no to.
Godfather. Yeah,
right?
number one. When the mortuary guy comes and he says he asked for revenge for his daughter that got.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. On the day of his daughter's wedding, right?
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
So that's when it was going down. We go, sure, Frank, whatever you want. We talk out. Tyler is not an emotional dude. Like, can keep the roller coaster even for the most part. He just goes, holy, like, let's go. And he's like, just keep walking. Like, we didn't want to over celebrate. So what happened is the 10 cases went in that first week. They put it at every table. I wanted to get into more nightlife places, but the nightlife group, the monsters, I call them, would be like, yeah, that's $25,000 if you want a menu placement. And I'd be like, I don't have $25,000.
Pay to play.
I thought it was pay to play, right? And it's in the industry, and it's just, it is a real life thing that you have to deal with. So I realized, what is the biggest pain point for a nightclub? An empty nightclub. If the nightclub is not busy, they're not selling tables, they're not selling drinks, it's not a cool place. And that's why the average shelf life of a nightclub in New York City is 1.5 years. I said to these nightclubs, I can get at least 50 of my friends in this door. And I was like a club promoter, if you will, but it was all my friends. It wasn't like random people. And I'd be like, I'll get them there. You hook them up with, a half price drink or something like that, but they'll buy only Owen's cocktails while they're there. And I'll make this place packed by the time you open up doors. First night, 50 people, more than 50 of my friends show up. We have at 9 p.m. an entire packed club. Then I start to realize this is something that I can bring as a tool to get into any bar or restaurant. So there was this place called Tequila Mockingbird on the Lower East Side. And I would throw parties at Tequila Mockingbird, 200 people line out the door. And we would go through like 20 to 30 cases just in that 4-hour span of that party. And I would get a buddy to DJ. His job was to bring 10 friends. And I would say to each person, you're a host. People always love hearing, oh, I'm a host of a party. Like, it's my party. Reality is, you're just telling your friends to go. It got to the point where people from Barstool would start to come to this party. And it's funny, one of the people that is on the sales team for Barstool, in our initial meeting that we were talking about planning with them, she was like, I was at the original Owens party. And I was like, good one. Like, like, I'm sure of course you're going to say that. Like, the party was bitching. I'm like, show me proof. She had a picture at the party. And I remember thinking, like, holy shit, like, think of like the random people that have been to our parties.
Right.
And so it got to a point where we were getting these events went from 50, and then we teamed up for Super Bowl down in Atlanta with Tao, and we had two short perform one day, Little John, Ray Strummer, Shaq West. I have that, if you remember that photo, Mikey, of me and Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
He drank Owen's grapefruit lime, and he said, "That's exquisite." And I remember being like, "Can I get that on camera?" But it was in a nightclub.
Yeah.
So we started and then we did parties with Tao at Sundance, and then we started to do our own parties down at Super Bowl. And so it morphed into this machine. And with the growth of Owens and where we're headed, we felt like if we could get people to know about Owen, that is our biggest hurdle, because liquid to lips is the only thing in our way. We have the best liquid. It tastes by far is the best cocktail of any mixer out there. And so with Barstool, everybody knows that they're a loudspeaker. They can get your brand out to their following fast and efficient and loyal following, right? And so they're like, "Why don't you come down for Super Bowl and let's talk about how we can make this deal happen?" And I was like, "Great." So Super Bowl in Miami is February 4th, 6th, something like that. I go golfing with Riggs, and I said to Riggs, he's like, "God, the mint cucumber lime is unreal." Like, he was drinking it with vodka.
Riggs works for Barstool, by the way.
He runs,
right.
Riggs runs their Foreplay Pod, which is with the other guys, is their golf podcast.
Not to be confused with Riggs from Lethal Weapon, who's a police officer. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sure he gets that all the time, though.
Very different people.
Yeah.
Pretty common. And I said we should create a transfusion together, and his eyes lit up. And he's been talking about transfusions for a while. For people that don't know what a transfusion is, it's a cocktail that consists of grape juice, ginger ale, and vodka. It's the most obscure drink ever. It was born on a golf course in Maryland. Some doctor came up with it because he said, when you drink it, it tastes like you just got a blood transfusion on a hot summer day. And so I was like, we can do this. And so when I say Barstool wanted to move fast, like, it felt like we were on the rocket ship with them. We had a deal done. A deal done in under 2 months. And so we became the official cocktail mixer of Barstool Sports. We had exclusivity in the category, and we're coming out with a co-branded product. We came out with the transfusion mix July 8th. We sold 1 million cans in the first 120 days. We are going to have the transfusion in 15,000 retail stores starting April 30th. It's already in about 10,000. So hockey stick type growth that you rarely see. Barstool has been nothing but amazing as a partner because it helps get our brand out there. And then truly at our core, we need to tell our story, which is the Owen story. So when you bring those two together, it really is a perfect storm of opportunity. And what it's translated to is during a pandemic, it catapulted us to the top of the category of brand awareness by far. And so we try to stay as involved with Barstool as we can because people don't realize it's not just pizza reviews. It's not just stock tips. It's not just golf. It's everything. They have a different voice across the board. And so when you use those voices and change the tone of your product of like, what's my messaging to the female demographic of Barstool, or what's my messaging to the more business people that are following Erica, you really start to craft a different pitch. And the reason why I think Owens is so great is that it can be for anybody. It's a very versatile product. If you're a gin drinker, or a bourbon drinker, or a vodka drinker, we have a mixer for you. And that's what I love about leveraging Barstool's media is we can share that messaging.
With Owens, any big things coming down the pipeline as far as, sponsorships and new drinks? Like, would love to hear kind of some of the stuff you're working on that end.
Yeah, so we're pretty excited. It's not public news, but we're launching in CVS's nationwide, 7,500 CVS's across the country, 5 SKUs. We just launched in Publix. We launched a deal with Kroger with our transfusion mix. It's all over California: Safeway, Albertsons, Ralph's, Vons, Pavilions, Gelson's, you name it. You look at our store locator, it looks like somebody has a rash across the United States of availability with the little red dots of store. The other big thing is golf courses. We're in just awesome places to golf. I took up golf about a year ago, literally started the pandemic. It's the most addicting sport ever. We're at Pinehurst, we're at Tobacco Road, we're at Stream Song, we're at Riviera Country Club, Bethpage Black, We're doing tournaments all across the country. The exciting part for us is that we're leaning heavily into golf because it's a social drinking sport. It's always been a social drinking sport, but with new golfers comes new way of playing.
And their consumers are
rounds,
loyal. They're the most loyal consumers out there.
But also, if you think about with Barstool, with golf, like and similar to sports apparel, if you grew up playing in Nikes, you're wearing Nikes as a basketball shoe. But if you're a young kid and you watch Steph Curry, you're rocking Under Armour, right? Or if you're in Houston and you're a kid growing up, and at the time James Harden was obviously Adidas' biggest basketball player, you're rocking James Harden shoes. So same thing goes with what we're trying to do, which no one has done, is create that type of brand loyalty to our brand where people say, if I'm drinking, I'm only drinking with Owens. If it's a cocktail. I'm not trying to compete with White Claw, Truly, any of the beers, because if you want a cocktail, you're pouring a spirit into it. And as my grandmother always used to say, there's 2-finger drinkers and then there's 4-finger drinkers, four to forget. And that means you pour all the way to the top and you just do a little bit of mixer. And what I like about Owens is it allows you to control how much you put into that drink.
Dude,
so you have lightweight.
This guy, I'm buying some tonight, dude. I mean,
yeah,
like,
dude, it tastes really good. It's amazing.
Well, I'll tell you what, dude. Listening, I mean, you're a true magician, dude. I mean, some of these stories. I hope you're documenting some of these for like the book later on, because some of these pitch stories are just like pure. You came in like David Copperfield, bro, and like. It's just, dude,
I appreciate that.
I'm blown away, especially, we have a lot of guests on here, but again, I'm down to buy whatever you make pretty much.
I like that. Well, yeah. I appreciate that. It's fun. It's when you put your own passion behind it and you're not trying to be I remember distinctly why I decided to go the entrepreneur route is because I wanted to carve out my own, path that way. And I'd be passionate.
Be your own boss.
Behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your own boss. You want to be able to get your own TV, man. Imagine if the Pops would have just bought you that TV. Who knows?
PS2.
PS2. That's right.
PS1 was trash.
Yeah.
PS2. I was an N64 guy before that.
Yeah.
So I was playing GoldenEye, Mario Kart, and then the PS2 came out. Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas.
The good games.
All remember how.
Hey,
the OG games.
But before, we've had you on for an hour. We probably could talk all day, but we've got we definitely could. We have a lightning round where we ask specific questions that are based on the Bay Area. Our last podcast guy, I don't know what I'm saying. Ben Jorgensen, he's the CEO of
Constellation Network and Lattice Exchange.
Very successful guy. Just won the belt, and where the hell? I don't know if I have the belt in here. I'll go grab it real quick.
He's gonna grab the belt.
Is he still in the Bay Area? Because I feel like I'm at a severe disadvantage being out for 15 years.
I'm gonna give you some love. I'll tell you what. You've already mentioned a couple things that like you just mentioned them already, and I also thought about some other questions. So I'm gonna. You're Mike's age, right?
Yes.
So I'm older. I usually, we had AG on the show, and I asked him like an above the rim question, and I forget that, like, dude, I'm ancient, dude. I'm like 37.
Above the Rim was a good film.
Yeah.
In Above the Rim, wasn't there like a really weird scene with an apple or something like that?
On the as one of the teams that played in the end.
Tupac plays Birdie, kills him on the court.
Kills him, but like. Over something stupid. I can't remember what it was.
Just losing. That's all it was. He was a sort of.
People forget Tupac from Oakland was one of the best actors of all time. Remember the very famous line, "You got the juice now."
Yeah. Oh, dude, the scene in Juice where he's standing behind the locker and they close it and he's just standing there and he's like, you're just like, oh, dude.
So this is the belt, Josh. So if you get you don't win this belt, but you're etched into history. You
don't get the belt.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, we try to make the questions incredibly difficult. So a lot of our former guests, it's hard. So look, we're trying to. It's like the Barstool Pizza review. Like you're not getting a 9 or an 8. You're getting hammered. So
something a decimal.
Yeah, so they're tough, dude. It's really tough. But let's give it a go, dude. Let's give it a run. Okay. Mike gave me a little info. You're from the South Bay, right? Okay, so I'm gonna start off with basically Tom Cruise, the actor, was in a bunch of films, not from the Bay Area, but he inspired a few rides. Yeah, I did go a little walking. He inspired a couple of rides at a theme park near where you grew up. So I need to know one of the rides that one of his films inspired and what the theme
Mission
park
Impossible. Was the movie. And then it was, well, it's funny. I'm thinking of Raging Waters right now, but what's the name of the theme park? It's right off of 101.
Yeah, which is the theme park. You went there many times, and it was actually, I think,
Drop
the company.
Zone.
Yeah, Paramount owned the theme park.
What's the name of the theme park?
It's actually there's a parkway. The exit is called blank blank Parkway. 2 words.
Dude, you have to get this.
I'm not even getting number 1. This is a pathetic park. I got grounded and wasn't allowed to go there as a kid.
You got Top Gun. You said it, but what?
I know. Something Adventures, no.
Actually, you know, the name of it would be controversial now with the latest president coming in and how kind of his slogan. But, okay, if you can name the ride, we're going to allow you to go on. So you said Top Gun?
Correct.
Okay, it was a tougher question, so we're gonna give you some Bay Area love. Great America was the theme park.
Oh my God!
Paramount's Great America.
That's bad.
But the reason we're gonna give you that is because it's no picnic going forward. So you mentioned
I was never tall enough to ride at the time, so how was I supposed to know? Boom, excluded.
I've never been on a roller coaster because I'm afraid to ride. Yeah. So I was there with you.
Life's a roller coaster, Mike. Ride on, brother.
So we talked about dads in this, and in 1989, my old man took me to a concert, Bon Jovi, and it was for an album called Slippery When Wet, and they performed at a very famous concert venue in Mountain View. What's the name of that concert venue?
Shoreline Amphitheater.
Bam. Okay. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to say the rounds of this. So first one was Friends and Family. That's why you got the love. That was Seed Round. Now we're going to move into Series B and IPO. We did a little, it's our little structure.
Also, BFD, Foo Fighters, first concert in high school.
A lot of big concerts. Yeah, a lot of big concerts there.
Serve Owens, by the way, at Shoreline Amphitheater. No big deal.
I think I'm going to switch my Series B question, Mike, because of something you mentioned. When you talked about selling the massage chairs, I thought about a movie that was filmed in the Bay Area starring Will Smith, and he sells these like X-ray Pursuit of Happiness. Bam, dude. I had to hit that because I was like, dude, my guy's he's just like Will Smith in that, dude. Like
he does have that vibe for sure.
Okay. I haven't slept in a bathroom stall yet, and I say yet. So
this last one's tough, really tough. This is the IPO round, and if you get
this is for the championship.
Yeah, this
is
for the belt.
I'm glad I just went from Series B to going IPO. I love that there's no C or D, so let's do it.
You almost didn't make it out of the first round, dude. Like,
we got friends and family love, Sonoma State love, Ropo love. Okay, so while the Irish coffee, a very popular beverage, especially on this day, was invented in Ireland, it was made famous in the Bay Area on this side of the pond by a San Francisco bar.
Perry's.
No.
Not Perry's? Wait,
Perry's.
You want to finish what you were saying?
Yeah,
there's no way he's
No, it was made famous at a local bar in the Bay Area. And when you hear it, I think you may
get San Francisco or
San Francisco. And like that, this is the spot you go to for the Irish coffee.
Not Old Ebbitt. It's over by Market Street.
It might be on Market. It may be on Hyde.
There's no way he's getting it.
We can't give. This is IPO round, dude. I mean, this is like, it's tough, dude.
Is it the oldest bar in San Francisco? Do they claim to be?
No.
Nope. Should we allow him to phone? Should we allow him to phone Banez?
I don't know if we can phone. Can he phone Banez? He's useless, dude. He might know this because he's a degenerate, but
give him the answer.
Okay, you want the answer? It's the. You want to take one more guess? Use
You're
some
not gonna get-
telepathy. I
I'm
would.
stumped.
The Buena Vista Cafe.
Wouldn't have guessed that in 30 podcasts.
Yeah, it's, and there's a reason. You know, again, it's that one is always the toughest. And I'll tell you, Ben, our last guest got really lucky, but
Love to know his questions.
yeah,
I feel like Mike made it hard on purpose.
No,
I-
no. Dude, Dom makes the questions, man.
I make the questions. I think you got a lot of stuff going.
Can you ask Mike a question for me? How many intramural championships at Sonoma State does Mike have?
I've got one or two, I think. I don't know.
Oh, no.
Josh has more, man. He has more championships. He was, he was
Three
an
for
intramural
three.
beast.
And I want to give a big shout out to the 1 year where I had all the odds stacked against me.
Dude,
And I had to call in a favor from a friend of the show to join my team. And instead of joining Mike's team, he joined my team. That's
Steve
Mr.
Pratt.
Steven Pratt.
He did it as
Dude.
it's a parody.
You talk about the
you know.
original Jordan and Pippen?
People
Yeah.
do
or
charity
Stockton and Malone?
all the
Hey,
time.
I remember those games, those intramural games at Sonoma State got so heated. Like
dude.
you talk
ugly.
about bodies, dude. It was just, no, man. But yeah, no, those are tough. But luckily, I think you got some stuff on the horizon far better than the bridge to bridge belt.
I might have to make my own belt.
Yeah, and
Mu Omicron Beta, dude.
well, we gotta play some golf. You can't just throw names out like the Riviera and
I know.
you
See,
know,
here's
like
the hard part about when you tell people about the courses you're on. Then they
Yeah.
expect tee times, prime
Yeah.
time. Saturday morning at 9 a.m. with the boys. So
And
we'll definitely make it happen.
Let's do it, and we'll go out there, and I'm getting some Owens mixers after this. I already got Sir
On
Kensington's
Amazon, if
in
you
the
don't
fridge.
feel like going to the store, that's the great part about it. And we got a big year ahead of us. So thanks for having me on, guys.
You want to shout out the socials for Owens?
Just Owens Mixers on both Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then Amazon.com/Owens Mixers, all available on Prime. And then the margarita mix is hitting Bevmo this month. So
Check
gotta
it out,
try it.
ladies and gentlemen.
check those out, and hey, I know it's only a matter of time before you launch a sales book. Some of those things are, dude.
Fire.
I mean, let's stick with me. If you didn't go walk to that prom, think about all the people that have been employed from the ventures and stuff, and you just walked over to check out that prom on the marathon day. And I know there was other stuff, but I mean, it's just like, you got to write a book for folks because I think they can really benefit from the fearlessness,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's treated me well. It's also got me in trouble sometimes, but it's a good thing. But I need one Christopher Walken impression, please, dear God.
We're done, so it's not recording anymore. So
That's fine. I still need it.
Well, actually, it is. I think it is recording, so you can give him the Walken. Give him a good one, dude. Don't fuck
I
up.
need like
Yeah.
Walken.
Yeah, you can get a. Well, so last time on Cinco de Mayo, I went to a restaurant and I asked for a margarita. And they gave me this trash, the mixer. It's like they got it from a dumpster. And I said, hey, where's the Owens mixer? If you don't get that, I'm gone. You're gone. I'm out of here. So they finally got the mixer. I made a drink. It was flawless. The amount of lime was unbelievable. I'm telling you, if you get a chance, grab an Owens mixer. Come on, do the right thing. You'll thank yourself.
Dom, 100% going on an ad for Owens. If you give me a clean, without me laughing in the background, you give me that exact clean take, I will put that on ads.
Done deal, dude. We'll
Let's
make
do
it
it.
happen for sure. Hey, that's the least I can give to you for coming on the show, and I'll send that over, dude, for sure.
Josh, thanks,
Appreciate
buddy.
it, guys. Well,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you so much. Have a great night and happy St. Pat.
I'll see you on the COD later, bro.